Today we're going to be going through some of the financial aspects and capabilities of Aldoa and some of the best practices that an engineering or consulting firm should have as it surrounds project finance. I'm Frank Preve. I'm one of the original team members here at Aldoa, and I can take you guys through some of the capabilities and best practices associated with leveraging technology in the engineering and consulting space to better understand project finances. Okay. So once again, we have Aldoa here, and uh, within Aldoa, you are able to very intuitively and very naturally understand the health of a project budget. So as a user, when I log in, I have an immediate understanding of what my budgets are for a project, what has been spent of those budgets, and what is remaining of the project budget as well. And from this screen, the application gives me an indication of what we've billed the client for, what we've worked on the project but haven't billed the client for, meaning your work in progress, and what you've billed the client for yet they haven't paid you. You also have visibility into understanding exactly what's remaining in the way of labor that's been budgeted, both in terms of dollars and hours, what you've allocated to spend in terms of subcontractors or third parties that you're working with, and also any kind of expenses or lump sum types of charges, flat fee charges associated with the project. Okay. And so whenever you work in a project capacity, understanding the budgetary constraints associated with that project are vital. And these can be budgetary constraints that are imposed by the end customer, meaning an estimate that you've provided to them, or they can be an internal constraint, meaning a threshold that necessitates or indicates whether the degree to which you are or aren't profitable on an individual project. And Aldoa has set up a very simple and intuitive means of tracking this. We mirror Excel in this capacity, where you can have a template that's set up, and within this template, you can populate the hourly rate associated with the project, the number of hours that are related to it as well, or the number of hours that are budgeted. And in the instance of a lump sum project, you can just put a flat amount inside of there. Once we've established our budget from within the program, you can track time within Aldoa as well. And so here, if we go to add time, and let's say I work on, I'm scrolling down here, there's the Fort Briggs military base. I work on this project here, and I can indicate that I worked on filtration, what my role is, what I did on that project, and here I've gone ahead and populated some hours. Okay, you can save that. Everything flows into the back end. And from there, Aldoa provides the capabilities of automating the creation of invoices. And if you're an engineering or consulting firm, your workflow for invoice creation is a little bit different, simply because with traditional accounting systems or invoice generation methodologies or invoice generation platforms, you are billing in a way that reflects the sale of a physical good. But if what you sell to the world is your time, that workflow varies from the traditional company that carries an inventory and sells a SKU. So here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to indicate that I'd like to create an invoice. And here's the start date and end date for the invoice creation. I can immediately see and understand what's happening with my project. I can see what I've budgeted for a particular project or a particular line item or deliverable. I can see what remains to be billed and what I've previously billed. So I can see that I've billed 14% of what I allocated to this phase one. I've billed 13% or 16% of what I've allocated towards this second phase. And the application naturally tracks this information and it keeps a running tab of what you budgeted, because all project finance or all finance that happens in a project context happens in the context of a budget, whether it's client facing or internal. So it tracks what was the budget, what remains to be billed, and what did you bill for previously, thereby indicating what you can bill in the subsequent um, billing cycle. So, scrolling down here, I'm now able to see any hours that have been added. Um, And for a lump sum value, I can indicate the percentage that I'm going to be adding here is 50%. I can also add third parties and subcontractors to this as well. And I can indicate that I'm going to do a markup on these subcontractors here. So here's the date received, the payment terms associated with this, and then the portion of the project it belongs to. So I'm adding that to the subcontractor portion of things. The program also tracks all of your expenses. So I log in here and I immediately see all the expenses that my team has submitted, and I can make a determination as to which of these expenses are going to appear on the invoice. Let's go ahead and add them all. And I want to do a little bit of a markup on one of them as well. And now we can also do things like add retainers. And I can see there's a retainer on this project, right? And it's $4,500 retainer, meaning that there's been multiple different deposits. We've drawn down against those deposits, and I can choose to apply the retainer to this project as well, or to these expenses. So we've gone ahead and we've applied the retainer here in this instance. And now we can go into the designer mode and we see all of the hours that we submitted, right? The lump sum values. We can see the markup on the subcontractor. We can see the different expenses with the markups associated with them. And we can also see like what's remaining in terms of credit from the retainer that we applied. And we can see that this invoice was for 3,307, and that there's only $1,200 remaining of the deposit. So doing complex things like, having subcontractors, doing markups on subcontractors, having expenses, doing markups, having retainers, all of this is a complexity that doesn't exist with traditional invoice generation systems or traditional accounting systems. We've designed Aldoa specific to the engineering spaces, so the nuances of your financial workflows can be incorporated into your invoices and other financial documents as well. So now we want to show a labor breakdown as well. You can get a breakdown as to how the you were able to generate the hours that you're billing for. Once we're done with this, we can preview, publish this. We are fully integrated with QuickBooks, so everything that's happening in a project finance capacity can also flow into your accounting system so that your general ledger can perform its traditional general ledger functions like taxes and things like that. Now going into the front end, we can see everything has changed in the way of the budget. We can see we've reduced the amount of remaining budget. We can see that the values associated with how much we billed for have changed and the remaining amount has been changed. You can also click on any of these variables and understand the genesis of the information that we've created. And you can see all of the different invoices that we've generated to this point, right? And you have visibility into when they were issued, the amount that they were issued for as well. Aldoa also provides for you as a user the ability to understand the status of your invoices. And this was an ongoing problem that we saw at a lot of engineering firms. Just keeping track of when you haven't been paid can actually be a very arduous process. And you don't want to spend all day inside of your accounting system. So having front and center with every single one of your customers, the ability to see whether an invoice is overdue, an invoice has been sent, or an invoice has been published and paid is something that's readily visible for the user base. And you can see this at an individual project level. And you also have visibility into this across your entire firm as well. So if I, for instance, wanted to see all of my overdue invoices that occurred between a certain time period, I could see all of my overdue invoices. I could also see all the invoices of every status, regardless whether they've been paid, whether they've been published, whether they're overdue, um, uh, whatever the status is, you can have very real-time visibility into how your receivables are tracking. Same thing can happen with payables. You can have visibility into all of your different invoices, whether they have been paid, whether they have been received or overdue. It gives you that insight into the tracking of accounts payable as well. Okay. Aldoa also gives the users an understanding of how your relationships with your contacts and clients are faring. You can obviously ha keep track of client relationships and subcontractor relationships. But more importantly than just keeping track of the past interactions, the application tracks the project finances or the finances associated with those parties. So I, as a user or as an engineering firm, can see very readily and very quickly what the monetary value of any one relationship is. I can see the degree to which we've invested in each other over time. The application tracks this by osmosis, just by virtue of the fact that you use the program. It automatically understands, which revenues are associated with which contacts within the system as well. Okay. Time tracking is a very, very big use case for most engineering firms, and we have a whole host of different capabilities that are going to enable you as an engineering or consulting firm to track the information associated with the billable hours. So we have this table view that exists within Aldoa, and this table view gives you insight and visibility into exactly which hours were submitted by which user for which projects they submitted the information. And if you use any kind of like non-billable hours, which we refer to as global codes within the system, it can track non-billable hours as well. So between certain time periods, I have a very clean understanding, and let me go ahead and let me truncate the amount of time that's associated with this. Oops. I can go ahead and I can export the information out to Excel if I like. Simultaneously, I can rerun the report for certain time frames. And so let me go ahead and refresh the screen real quick. And the program will give me, once again, the capacity to see time that's been submitted between two different periods. Let's go back to one here, and now I'm running it again. And I can truncate this and I can see that during from the 23rd of January to March 1st, I had $106,000 in billable hours, 550 total hours. If I wanted a visual representation of what this looks like, I could have that appear as well. Let me prolong the amount of time here so that it becomes a little bit more visible. We can click here. And now we're going to be able to do a visual representation of this. And it shows how much time I have spent talking to clients and how much time has been my sick time. I have as much sick time as I do productive time. So maybe that's something to look into. And then you can also see, this time by project with all the hours that I'm issuing and submitting to which projects am I submitting to them, what is the total number of hours, and what is the monetary value of those hours. Okay. Moreover, I can see this by different roles. We engineered the application, knowing full well that at engineering firms, people wear a lot of hats, and somebody may submit hours as multiple different roles, even within the same project. So our application reflects this, and our reporting and financial metric tracking system is capable of tracking me, my contribution, and what I've submitted in the way of billable hours based on the different roles that I've submitted those hours for. Okay. And so other powerful or other elements of the application that are powerful is the ability to understand your profitability as a company. So whereas the original screen that we were showing you in the dashboards was showing you the profitability for an individual project, you also will have visibility across the spectrum of projects or the universe of projects that you're working on. To what degree did we budget or charge the client for this individual project? What did we spend? And to what degree were the projects profitable or not profitable? And this breakdown happens not just by the entirety of the project, but it happens by you can open up any one of these things and see the individual phases or tasks, and you have visibility into the degree to which each one of those tasks or deliverables to the end customer were in fact profitable and accretive or not profitable to the bottom line. You also have visibility into your profitability as a company as well. And if we go to the profit and loss statement here, you'll see that I can see exactly what my revenue was for a given month or time period, what my expenses were, the degree to which we made money or lost money. And this breakdown happens by every month or time period that I choose to run the report for. So if I were to run this on a quarterly basis, for instance, the application would then segment these revenues on a 3-month interval, and you could have visibility into which your bottom line is being um, augmented or decreased. So, last thing that we'll get into, we really believe that optimization of finances within a services-based firm is dependent on the ability to ensure that every member of the firm is being leveraged in the most optimal capacity. And Aldoa provides an opportunity to gain visibility and understand that for each team member. You're able to see what the billable utilization rates are for each team member, and the degree to which somebody may be used in an optimal capacity, overworked, or somebody without bandwidth, or an individual which has an opportunity to take on more. So if I can see here that Alex has too much on his plate, I have the capacity to take one thing off of Alex's plate, move it onto Andy's plate, and you can see the utilization rates adjust accordingly. Okay. And so that is a high level summary of our application in terms of its project finance capabilities. The capabilities are very robust and they go very, very deep within the program. But at the center of everything is this concept of a project, because as engineers and consultants, much of what you do is project based. There is a budget that's associated with it, whether it's a constraint promised to the customer or something that is put in place internally to ensure profitability. You're able to track these things and extrapolate out and understand the minutiae and the details of the degree to which you guys are meeting your goals, and you're able to form your organization around a system of record that tracks this for you. Um, I definitely enjoyed speaking with you guys. And if you guys have any questions or care to know more about our system, feel free to reach out at any time. My email address is frank@aldoa.com, or you can call us directly at 954-882-9072. Thank you once again. Appreciate it.